This is a German bee sting cake.
Let's see what's cooking. Let's get the facts. Let's see what's cooking. It's time for Yo-Yo Max 12.
Now, the origin of the bee sting cake is unclear, but according to the interwebs and legend, back in 1474, there were two villages in Germany that were at war. One town was planning to attack the neighboring village. On the morning of the attack, there were two apprentice bakers walking along the city wall and eating from bees' nests that they found hanging there. When they saw the attackers were coming to attack their village, they threw the bees' nests at them so that the attackers, being stung by the bees, had to flee. A special cake was baked to celebrate, the bee sting cake. Here's the German word for bee sting, and here's somebody else pronouncing it.
Bienenstich. Bienenstich.
All right, history lesson over. Now we're on to the cake. This cake has a custard filling, so that's what we're going to make first. That's a 1/4 cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. You're going to put that in a saucepan. The heat's not turned on yet. Just give that a whisk until it's combined, and then add in 1½ cups of milk. Now you will turn that heat on, and you will start to cook this over medium-low heat until it starts to thicken up. Once it's thickened and bubbly, you're going to cook it for an additional 2 minutes. And keep stirring constantly while you're doing this because you don't want to burn the bottom. Take it off the heat, and then you'll have 3 egg yolks in one bowl that you've beaten, and then you'll add a little bit of that hot mixture into the egg yolks and stir very, very quickly. Because we want to do is bring those egg yolks up to temperature a little bit at a time, and then pour it back into the custard mixture. Whisk that all together and then put it back on the heat, and you're going to heat this and bring it to a gentle boil for 2 minutes. Just so that you have a couple little bubbles coming up. And once you get to that point, you can remove it from the heat, and you're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And then just beat this together until the butter is melted and the vanilla is incorporated. And once you're done that, you're going to let this cool to room temperature. Put a piece of plastic wrap on the surface of the custard and refrigerate it until we need it. But it needs to be cold. Okay, on to the cake part. In a large mixing bowl, add 1 cup of flour and 1 envelope or 1/4 ounce of instant active dry yeast, as well as a 1/4 cup of sugar. In another measuring cup, that's 3/4 of a cup of milk and 1/3 of a cup of butter. I put that in the microwave and I let it cook there for about a minute or so until the butter is melted and the milk was very warm. And I poured it into the bowl with that 1 cup of flour and just blend that together. Then add in 2 large eggs. Now we're going to gradually add in an additional 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. Now what I did is I added in more flour until the dough started to come together. And then I switched the paddle attachment to a dough hook. And then I added in whatever little bit of flour I had left. I kind of stop it and go around the edges of the bowl just to bring all that dough in together. And if you don't have a mixer with a dough hook, you can just do this by hand on your countertop. And you're going to knead it until smooth and elastic, about 6 to 8 minutes. Then put a little bit of oil in the bottom of a bowl. Take your dough ball, put it in there, give it a turn so that it's coated. Cover it with plastic wrap or a clean kitchen cloth and put it somewhere warm to rise. It takes about an hour, hour and a half to rise until doubled. While that's rising, you can make your topping. So in a small saucepan, place a 1/4 cup of butter and 3 tablespoons of honey. And my honey was starting to crystallize a bit, so it's a little on the chunky side there, but that's okay. Then add in 2 tablespoons of white granulated sugar. And heat this over medium-high heat, stirring until the butter is melted and your mixture starts to bubble a little bit. And once it's bubbly, remove it from the heat. And we're going to add 1 cup of sliced almonds and just stir that up until the almonds are nicely coated and set this mixture aside. So once your dough is risen and it's doubled in size, you're going to put it into the bottom of a 9-inch springform pan that's been greased. Punch your dough down, then take that almond butter honey mixture that we just made and put that on top of the dough. Spread it around until it's nice and even. And then all you're going to have to do is cover this, and we're going to let it rise again until it's doubled in size. It's pretty much going to fill up that whole pan. Now what I do when I make bread is I put my oven on warm for just a few minutes and then shut my oven off. Then I put my dough in there covered with just the light on as a warm place. There it is, doubled in size. Put this in a 350-degree oven for about 25 minutes until it's golden brown. There it is, done like magic. Let it sit at room temperature for a bit so it cools, and then you're going to remove the sides of that springform pan. If it's sticking too much, just run a knife around the edge, but mine released quite nicely. And just let that cool completely. While that's cooling, you can finish off your custard. So in a large mixing bowl, you'll place 1/2 cup of heavy whipping cream. And you're going to beat this. Now, the original recipe says not to add sugar to your whipping cream, but I decided to add some sugar. I added 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar to about 1/2 cup of whipping cream, just because I didn't think this was going to be sweet enough for my family's taste, but that's completely up to you if you want to add that sugar at this point. So once your whipping cream is nicely whipped, we're going to add it to that custard. That's the custard that was in the fridge. You can see it solidified quite a bit. So what you're going to do is just whisk it until it's nice and loose and smooth again. And then you're going to fold in that whipping cream 1/2 at a time until it's incorporated. And just be gentle because you want this to be nice and fluffy. And once that whipping cream is all in there, we're ready to fill up this cake. This is a delicious custard, by the way. Now all you have to do is cut your cake in half horizontally. I used a bread knife. It actually cuts quite nicely and doesn't fall apart when you remove the top layer. Then take that prepared filling and just spoon it on top of the cake. There's going to be a lot of filling. Spread it out nicely. And take that top of the cake and put it on top of the filling. And it's done. This needs to be refrigerated because of that dairy filling. Now this cake is really, really good. It has the texture of a cinnamon bun, but it's not cinnamon flavored, if you can imagine, because it has that yeast dough in it. It's not a super sweet cake, but it is amazingly good. We really enjoyed this one. The honey and the almonds, you can taste that when you're going through the cake, and then that custard filling is just amazing. I think you should give this one a try. It looks complicated, but it really isn't that hard to do. So there's the traditional bee sting German cake. Now if you're looking for a French-Canadian traditional cake, try this maple pudding cake. Thanks so much for watching.